Wrestling fans, if you like what you've seen, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and also don't forget to ring that bell.
I'm Terry Sullivan along with Dave Drason. Welcome back. Another edition of Big Time Memories coming at you today with a man I think belongs in the Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling, Terry Funk.
Oh, my Lord. Yeah, you're talking about one of the greats, from East Coast, West Coast, Japan. He made a name for himself all around the world.
He has for a number of decades. I think he's a 6-decade performer in the ring, 6-decade athlete in the ring, and just one of the most fabulous all-round athletes of all time.
Oh, you see Terry Funk's name on the bill. People come in droves and pay money to see him. He's still a draw and still can, put it out there and give you, some great wrestling.
Former NWA World Heavyweight Champion back in the days when they were what we call a touring champion. Mm-hmm. They would go to an area of the country, maybe spend a week. They would wrestle every night and then fly to the next area of the country and do it all over again.
Yep, but let's go from the beginning.
Let's start.
Terry Funk, born June 30th, 1944, but he was born in Illinois, not in Texas. He's known for being, a Texan, but his father, Dory Funk, and his brother, Dory Funk Jr., moved to Texas when he was a young boy. Right. And they, started the promotion down there. Dory Funk Sr. was a big name. Dory Funk Jr. Broke in. And Terry Funk, he was like one of the numerous alumni of West Texas State University. Besides Terry Funk, you had Dory Funk Jr., you had Dusty Rhodes, you had Dick Murdoch, you had Tully Blanchard, you had Tito Santana, you had Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen, Ted DiBiase, Bobby Duncombe, Manny Fernandez, and a host of others.
This is amazing.
Yeah, amazing how many. Notre Dame doesn't. Can you name one wrestler who came out of Notre Dame? University of Michigan. You had Scott Steiner brothers. Yeah,
right.
But Terry, coming out of there, played football, and he was destined to, go into the family business of professional wrestling.
Just a natural. He and his brother Dory, too. I never had the pleasure of watching Dory Sr. in action, but he was a top star for at least 20 or 30 years, died after a wrestling match in Amarillo one night. But Dory and Terry were both two excellent practitioners of the craft of professional wrestling.
Yeah, they learned their craft well.
And Terry was so versatile. I mean, he could play any part in the ring. Good guy, bad guy, maniac, whatever you needed.
He did over his career, yeah.
And he would excel, if not over-excel.
And Terry made his debut in Amarillo, Texas in 1965. Against one of the other greats of professional wrestling, Sputnik Monroe, of all people.
The Sweet Man, the original Sweet Man, Sputnik Monroe. Yeah.
And, I happened to, as a young kid, go to St. Louis often, and I would see a young Terry Funk, wrestling on the Kiel shows. This would have been 1968, 1969, and Dory Funk Jr. would have been on those shows, and I remember seeing Dory Sr. on those. And all three of, I think I saw one match where all three of them were a tag team against Gene Kaniski, Dr. Bill Miller, and one other person I can't remember offhand, but I did see all three of them in a tag team match there.
And they had the Missouri State title, which was usually the precursor to the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, and that was, I think, one of Terry's very first titles.
And I happened to run into Terry in 1973. I happened to, with the Sheik's blessing, I went out to Los Angeles with Mike LaBelle's promotion, and I worked in the front office there for the summer of '73. And I remember one of the matches there that they built up really big, Terry Funk versus Victor Rivera. And I remember seeing Terry there. And many years later, it was almost 30 years later, I saw Terry Funk at a Cauliflower Alley Club reunion in Las Vegas. And before I knew he was going to be there because he was the MC with J.J. Dillon for the banquet. And I thought, what a great present for me to bring to Terry Funk. And I printed all the pictures out that I took that night at the Olympic Auditorium of Terry Funk and Victor Rivera. And I handed it to him, and he says, "Yeah, you're that kid from Detroit. You managed the Chic." And yeah. So he knew who I was, and he was so appreciative of what I gave him. And he goes, "Oh, you must know my uncle." And I go, "Yeah." And his uncle was Jack Kane, who was a referee down in Texas, and the Sheik brought him up as one of the bookers back in the late 60s and early 70s for big-time wrestling here.
Yeah, one of the most successful eras of big time.
Yeah, but Terry Funk didn't make his debut in big time until 1977, and I was already gone at that time doing my managing career. But you were still around here, so you have front information of what Terry Funk's debut was here in big time.
Well, we went through Dory's reign as world champion in the early 70s. Terry a little bit later than that, into the 73, 74, I think. But he came into Detroit in 77. The very first time he came in, it was to go against the Sheik. And I don't know if they had played some of the Japan tapes at that point in time, Sheik and Butcher against the Funks or not. But Terry Funk came in and wrestled the Sheik, won by disqualification. Can you believe that? The Sheik disqualified?
No.
Can you believe that? And he had several appearances then over 77 and 78. He and Dory came in for a series of matches against the Sheik and the Butcher. In fact, the last match that I have record of Terry appearing at in Cobo was in 1980. He and Dory against the Sheik and the Butcher inside a cage.
Wow, that had to be a wild one.
And Terry also had some numerous matches with Mark Lewin here in Detroit. Terry was not a fan favorite at that point in time and was not necessarily a favorite of one of the commentators at that point in time. He was quite a difficult guy to get along with. And one day when I was interviewing him on Big Time Wrestling, I think it was a live show at Channel 62 here in Detroit, and Terry was
upset,
in a mood.
Oh, in a mood,
yeah. He was in a mood, and he felt like he was being disrespected by the promotion, by Mark Lewin, and by the announcer. And he says, "Tell him I'm the best wrestler in the world." And I said, "Well, beyond a shadow of a doubt, you're one of the best wrestlers in the world." No, you tell him that I am the best wrestler in the world. And this went on 3 or 4 times, and finally it's like, dude, I am not going to say you're the best wrestler in the world. And that's the last thing I remembered. Knocked me out.
Oh, he snapped.
Yeah.
I would probably do the same thing if you didn't say I was the greatest wrestling manager in the world.
And I wish tape still existed, but that was recorded over about 4 weeks later, never to be seen again.
And over, Terry Funk's career, he changed personas, all the time.
Right.
I remember him being, Chainsaw Charlie?
Chainsaw Charlie in WWE, right. He had some numerous matches against Cactus Jack then. Mm-hmm. He was a commentator for a while in WCW, and, he was sort of retired from being on the road every night, but then he morphed from being a commentator into being a challenger for Ric Flair in WCW, and that led up to one of the most memorable matches, in my opinion, of all time, the I Quit match on television between Terry Funk and Ric Flair.
I remember also that Terry Funk went into the Memphis territory.
That's right.
Or as Jimmy Valiant would say, Mempho.
Mempho, yeah.
And he had some wild brawls with Jerry Lawler.
There's some classics there. The empty arena match, which was Terry's idea, is out there on YouTube, as is several interviews that Terry did in Memphis with Lance Russell, your friend, Lance Russell, the commentator there. and some really, really good stuff there.
Oh, God, those were some wild tapes to watch. If you wrestling fans go on YouTube and just type in Terry Funk, you're going to come up with a whole array of different kind of styles and matches. His Cactus Jack matches, the Jerry Lawler matches, the Abdullah the Butcher matches, the Sheik matches, just all classics.
And Terry later in his career morphed into what we would term the hardcore wrestler. And a lot of the stuff you see out there on YouTube is going to involve barbed wire and fire with Sabu, with Onita from Japan, with the Sheik. There's a lot of good video out there.
When he came out of wrestling, from West Texas State, he was a clean-cut, good-looking guy.
Yeah.
And morphed into this maniac, just a man of too many personas, but, an icon of professional wrestling.
And an all-around performer who also made his mark in movies.
Yes.
He absolutely did. Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze, Paradise Alley. He also, I hate to use the word choreographed, but he laid out the moves for the fight scene in Rocky V.
Yes.
And remains a good friend with Sylvester Stallone, who he starred with in Paradise Alley.
Oh, I always enjoyed Beyond the Mat.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, God,
yeah,
what a
absolutely.
great wrestling movie that was.
Yeah.
So he had a career in wrestling, movies, and wait, what was the name of the ranch that he inherited from his father?
The Double Cross.
The Double Cross Ranch
in Amarillo, Texas.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Well, as customary, Terry, can you take us and give the fans one last introduction of the great Terry Funk?
I will, and Terry is active on Twitter at Dirty Funker. You can find him on Twitter. And now, ladies and gentlemen, from the Double Cross Ranch in Amarillo, Texas, weighing 245 pounds, Terry Funk.
I'm proud to say that I'm a part of IBW.
I take pride in IBW that we are a family-run company.
It's a fight. It's a sport. IBW tradition has always mattered.
You're going to see world-class professional big-time wrestling at its best.
This ain't no sports entertainment. This is professional wrestling.
International Big Time Wrestling's The Fix. Each and every week, your fix of IBW action. You want entertainment? Look no further than Rocks TV. International Big Time Wrestling!
Wrestling fans, if you like what you've seen, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and also don't forget to ring that bell.